Hi everybody, Lonna here. Are you ready to paint this adorable cow? Well, I've titled it Happy St. Patty's Day from Moo to You. You can grab a full PDF packet on my website, lonnalamb.com, which has a list of all the supplies you need, the written instructions, step-by-step photos, a line drawing. It's got it all. So let's get started. All right, let's start this project. It's going to be a fun one, I think. I've got a gallery wrapped canvas. It's a 6x6. I'd already painted it black for something else. So you can start with a white canvas. I'm going to start with a black and 6x6. I've got turquoise blue and Bahama blue. And I'm also going to put a little bit of white out. We'll make a little gradation of color. On here I'm going to use my 2-inch foam roller, so I'm going to start with the turquoise blue and we're going to put it on one edge. I'm going to try and not go over my edge since I want to keep my edges of this canvas black so I don't have to rework them so much. I've come about a third of the way down. I might come down a little bit farther on this one, on this color. Get a little bit more of that color out. I want that to be just a little bit more opaque. My 2-inch foam roller is damp. I've removed all the moisture out. If you're getting splattering, throwing everywhere, you've got one of two issues or both. You've got too much moisture still in your roller, squeeze it out. You've got too much product in your roller, squeeze it out into a paper towel, whichever it is. And then just go right back into loading your roller and right back to your project. Alright, I picked up the Bahama blue and we want it in this area. Now I'm just going to pick up a little bit of white. So you see I've loaded my roller with 3 different colors. You don't have to just put one color on it. So now I'm giving more pressure on this side because I want the white to go down. Kind of tilted this side up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go into that with a little bit of that Bahama blue. I still want it to be a turquoise color. I just want it to be light. Okay, and then up here we might want a little bit more up in this top edge. Get a little bit more of that. I want to see a gradation of color going from the bottom all the way to the top. So I think I'm going to have to add something. Well, I really want the upper part to be bright. I just think maybe it needs another little bit of turquoise blue because of the black color on the canvas to begin with. So I'm going to dry a little bit and try and get some of that turquoise blue back up on the top. Our main element here, which is this cute little cow, is going to fill a good majority of the canvas. So we just want the sky to look really good. So I'm going to go over it again. Now you can have 3 separate rollers if you want, but it's really not necessary. Alright, let's get that cool. I'm going to get some more turquoise on my roller, on the end of it. And I want to try and just put the turquoise down. Get a little bit more of that Bahama in through here. Bring it up into the turquoise a little bit. And then that white is still on my roller, so I can work that Bahama blue down into that. And now I'm just going to remove that off of the edge there and then go back to my turquoise. I've got this whole end of the roller tilted up. Okay, that looks so much better. much better coverage, so we've got a nice gradation of color. We're going to let this dry and then get our line drawing on. I'm going to use a gray graphite paper so that we can you know, see everything clearly. The clouds that are on here, if you want to switch to a white graphite so we don't have to cover up dark lines, that might work a little bit better for the clouds. But I'll come back once I get my line drawing on. Alrighty, I went ahead and put mine on with white. Since I had the white under there for the clouds, I decided to go ahead and do the whole thing with white. So our clouds here, we want them to be a little bit wispy on the bottom, nothing too fancy. So I'm going to use just this old scruffy type brush. This is actually a Betty Bird, a number 10. It's pretty worn down on the head of it, so I hope it will, it might be too big. I might have to grab a smaller brush or one that has a point. See, this one has a point on the end, so maybe I could get into some smaller areas. We'll give this one a shot. This one is a Dynasty brush, 200 series. I believe the brush guys carry this particular brush. I'm going to use it dry, and I'm going to load up with some, I've got banana cream here. Okay, I'm going to load that into the brush. I'm going to tap off on a dry paper towel, just tap a little bit off so I don't have a big glob on the very tip of my brush. And then we're just going to come in here and just loosely put these cloud shapes in here and let a little bit of that blue show through as we get to the bottom. Make them super, you know, easy. This is our first layer. We will put a second layer on, but we'll try and keep it a little bit more at the top. But we still want it to look brush strokey. So, you know, whatever you can do to create that little bit of a look. Okay, these are just our base coats, not our finishing coats. Alright, these two down here are much smaller, so I'm definitely not going to give a lot of pressure on the brush and have it straight up and down so that I can keep it within the shape that I have here. Alright, so that's our base coat on our cloud. Super easy. I'm trying to decide if I just want to continue with this brush, because in through here is all this color. So I can paint it in with this brush as well, but you grab whatever brush is going to work for you. And then the hair up here, I may have to get a small round brush to finish that off. The chest is this color, and I will have to get a smaller brush to finish this as well. I'll make sure I don't go over my edge there. Alright, where else do we need to use? I'm going to grab a smaller brush, so I'm going to rinse this particular brush out. We do need some of this color in here, but it's still too big for me to manipulate in that small area, so I'm going to rinse it and to grab a angle brush. I think I'll grab a 3/8 inch angle brush so I can do some of these tighter areas with this color. Of course, the hair. We're going to have some flyaway hairs up here on this cow, I hope. So don't worry about being too perfect with your hair here. This is all just underpainting. Okay, let's go in over here and finish this area. And I'll go off camera and do my second coats on everything so that you can see how it looks once all the base coats are on. Okay, where else do I need this? I need it on the mouth here. So this area I might have to go with a small round brush. This color also goes inside the eyes. So let me grab a small round brush here. The mouth, this is, or the lip, I guess this is, right here. And then this is the chest area down here. So we kind of want to make sure we can tell what's what for painting later. And then we got a little bit of the lip over here. Okay. And then inside the white of the eye, I want to start with this color. And this one over here. I've drawn some extra lines that I don't need to have in here, so it's confusing me. I really just need the eye shape and the white part of the eye. The other stuff will come as we paint it, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Alright, let's put some of the other color on our cow, and I think I'm going to go with, I don't know if that's the color I want or not. Light cinnamon. Light cinnamon. He's going to be kind of a brown cow. I painted another cow a few years ago and made him black and white, but this one's going to be, I think, more of a cinnamon color. We'll give it a shot. Okay, I want to paint in every section. Could have gone down to a small round here. This is the upper part of the ear. Everything can be smooth right now. We don't have to worry about hairs and stuff. We'll add that after we get everything the way we need in the base coats. Okay, so once I get 2 coats on here, if I cannot tell where my lines are, I'm going to have to draw them back in here. So just keep that in mind. Because I'm using a 3/8 inch angle, probably a small flat, a filbert, or a round brush would work best in these smaller areas. This paint was pretty thick out of the bottle. I probably should add some water to it. Alright, I am going to go to a smaller brush here because I got to paint some smaller areas in up here on the face. I mean, they're not super small, but they're smaller. So let's see what kind of size of brush I want to use here. Seeing if I have a small flat one. Like a 6 flat brush. Let's see if this will work. It still might be too big. I still might have to go with a round brush around the eyes. So I'm just going to grab it. I'm just painting everything in here. Details we will bring in later, so we don't, even all these little lines that I put in here, I didn't need to put them in here. So right now we're just making smooth areas, but we'll add all those fun stuff in. Hairs and all that stuff. Okie dokie. Second coats will be much easier because we've got everything based in, so we know shapes. We just have to, you know, kind of fill in where paint is not fully covering the canvas. You know, your second coat does not need to be a thick coat because we're putting other stuff on top of it, and we just want to see that blue. More water. And if you don't have light cinnamon, you can use milk chocolate might be okay. You don't want anything too close to honey brown, because honey brown is going to be our highlight color. But I think you could get by with milk chocolate. Okay, crazy as those eyes look, they're definitely some big eyes. Let's go down here. We gotta have this color down here. You know, I didn't want to paint a traditional St. Patrick's Day. I mean, I've done that before and just, you know, didn't have the desire to go traditional. You know, I wanted to go more fun, so let's keep it fun. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of this color in the nostrils. You know, they'll end up being kind of different, but I really, now on the line drawing, it just kind of made the nostrils kind of circular, but I really want them to be a little bit more like this. So they can be circles or they can go like that. So you be the judge. So we'll just put a little bit in there like this. This one looks like it needs to be bigger. Well, they're closer. I'm not sure I'm liking the way that one turned out. So when I do my color in here, I might take that off. Okay, we'll let those dry before we paint around them. Let's go paint in the eyes with some black. It's making it not look so scary, right? Not sure they look quite the same, but we are gonna go with it. Okay, the clover, the 4-leaf clover, and the stem. Now the stem will probably add a little tiny bit of brown onto it as we develop it, but we want everything to be base coated in with leaf green. So this is all color book painting, just kind of outlining your shapes and filling them in. You'll just do it 2 times. We will have to make sure we can see that lip there. And now I've got to fill in with some of that banana cream, or whatever it is I'm using. Yep, banana cream. I'm thinking this one is the stem to the one he's chewing on, and this stem goes to this great big one. That's my thought process on it. Okay, clover is nothing but a heart with a line down the center. Outline. And then fill in. Use a brush appropriate for the area. So don't do like I did earlier and try to use a great big giant brush for a very small area. Sometimes I can get that to work and sometimes I can't. Now painting on a gallery depth canvas, it's a little bit harder because you can't lay your hand flat on the edge like you can with, let's say, a canvas panel, which is what I like to paint on, mostly for storage. And you know, you can change out your frames very easily if you want to put it in a frame. You don't really have to put that line in the middle to paint it. I was just trying to see if I could keep that area from not being blue. Alright, let us paint in up here. And I want it to be an orangey color. So we're going to take our orange, which one am I using? Cadmium orange. And I'm going to see how this banana cream changes the color. That might be about right. So my mix was pretty close to an equal mix. I might have a little bit more orange than I do banana cream. Let me see if I can mix it. 1, 2, 1. Nope, that's an equal mix. Equal mix right there of cadmium orange, and banana cream. And everything does not look its true color right now because we have that blue that is still showing through. We want this to look orange, not peach, so if your mix is looking peachy, put some more cadmium orange into your mix. You don't want any pastel-y colors here. So this is when you can fix your nostril if you don't like it. Might round that a little bit at the top there. Oh, this is a choppy mess in here. My paint was so thick out of all these bottles today. I don't know what's going on. Okay. That looks better. Okay. I'm going to touch up my banana cream down here underneath my clover. Now that I've painted it in, I can see where it needs to go. Alright, that's first coats right there. So it takes a little while to get the first coat on of your base coat. So I'm going to go off camera and get my second coats on. I'm not going to try to add any more to the bottom of the clouds. Well, actually the clouds you can leave alone. We don't want another coat on them. We'll finish them together and get them defined. So just a first coat on your clouds, and everything else gets 2 coats. Alright, I've got my 2 coats on and added a few lines in here that may or may not help me. I do need to put a light line down here where the lip is, right there. Just give myself a guide. Now on these clouds, we're going to finish them, and I want to erase the graphite lines around them if I can. If I've gotten paint on them, they're not going to erase. We're not going to do a whole lot to these clouds. We're just going to do another layer, but keep it mostly on the top of these little bump things. This time I might go down to a smaller, really small scruffy type brush. This has very short bristles, so I can do a little bit of scumbling and you know, put it in smaller areas. So I'm going to load it the same way with not very much paint. This is a Betty Bird brush. I don't know if they're still available online or not. This is a number 8. I've kind of really worn it down. I've had it a long time. And I need more paint on my brush, so I'll get some more, tap off the excess. I just want to hit the tops. I want to keep the bottom of the cloud still a little bit of see-through stuff there. So we're just putting a little bit on here. And they should take just a few seconds to do because these down here are not big at all. Okay, that's all we're going to do to the clouds. We're not making these clouds bright white or anything like that. We're kind of keeping a certain palette on this one. Alright, before I move on to painting anything else, I want to paint around the eyes. Okay, so this line out here. We're going to make a dark line around the eye. I want to make it brown, not quite so black, but a dark brown. And I've got here burnt umber and soft black. I think I'm going to use those two mixed together. And it's really thin right here. Let me get moisture out of my brush. And then it gets thick as it goes around the eye. And then thins back out down at the bottom. I'm going to do it this way so I can pull towards myself. Pulling towards yourself, you have much better brush control than going away. And let me get a damp brush so I can clean this up. It's going to be thin over here. Just a dark area around the eye. We'll go over and do this one. Could use a smaller round than what I'm using. I'm using the two that I've been using here, but you could definitely go to a detail brush and get that dark around the eye. So that was a mix of burnt umber and soft black so that we could have a little bit more opacity in our color. I think I'm going to take that same mix. So I'm just doing roughly an equal mix, but you know, if you get more than one or the other, that's just fine. Let's go in here and create some little wrinkly bits. Now you could go down to a much smaller angle brush than what I'm using because this one is very big. I think I will get my 1/4 inch one because I need to go inside the eyes with a little bit of some shading of the burnt umber. Inside on that yellow area. This is a very sheer float of burnt umber. And I'm going to have to do the dark color on this eye over here again. Just putting that circle around the eye. We can go ahead and put a dot in the eye. You can use white or warm white. Either one will do. Put a dot in the eye. I'm kind of thinking I want warm white because our colors are a little bit more muted on this one. I'm not thinking I'm going to really use other than the white down here. So I guess since I've already used it down there, I'll just go ahead and use it in the eye because I want to not have a huge color palette here. Try to make those dots the same size. They can be smaller than that if you want. Alright, so that kind of finishes off that part of the eye. We'll work on stuff around it as we build the fur, but the eyes really should be pretty easy. They should be a very, very simple eye. Alright, we're going to come down to the muzzle and do a little bit on it. So I'm going to take this drywall tape, which you can buy on my website, and the length is like 18 inches or something. It's sticky on the back. And I'm going to take some kind of brush, makeup sponge, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You know, an old brush is best. And I'm going to take some of the yellow that we used up here. And I think I might, I'm trying to decide if I want to mix a little tad of the orange in there with it so it's not quite so bright yellow. That's our banana cream. You can put just a tint of the orange in there. See, I put the tiniest little bit. That is how it is, just the straight paint, and this has a tiny little tint of the orange in it. We don't want it to get too orange because then it will just blend into the muzzle itself. So I'm just going to loosely paint in the muzzle. Get some down here. I get to all the edges around the nostrils a little bit better. It's okay if we get it in the nostrils or out around something else. That's why we're doing this one of the first steps, so we can clean up anything we need to clean up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to clean up out here and down here on our, I'm just using a damp brush. Okay, that looks like the only places we really got it. I'm going to touch up inside the nostril there. We're going to go ahead and finish out the nostrils. So we're going to get our light cinnamon out, which is what we used on it to begin with. Okay, that upper side is going to be the darkest. Okay, I'm just going to remove the excess paint from my brush. I'm not going to wash it. And I'm going to grab the orange and a little bit of banana cream. That's going to make this really dirty orange color that we're then going to paint on this side. Need a little bit more of the orange and the banana cream in there. We're like making the thick edge of the nostril. This is just beginning it. Kind of replacement. It's going to have to be a little bit more on the brown side, I think. Let me rinse my brush. I'm going to try and do just the brown and the orange. That's better. So we're going to mix light cinnamon and our orange together. This bottom side will be the thickest, or the whitest, I guess. And then we need it really dark back in the back, so we'll take the soft black and burnt umber and put it back in there. Okay, I'll rinse my brush and just to get some of the light cinnamon and go right here where these meet. Just kind of blend them. Okay, there's his nostrils. Pretty easy. They're not shaped the same, but you know what? He's a cow. He's unique. All right, let's shade a little bit on the top part of the muzzle with that mix of orange and light cinnamon. We're going to go across the top here. And then we're going to go down here. A little bit more light cinnamon in there, I think. And some water. Put a little shadow here. This is our orange and cinnamon mixed together. You can do an equal mix or you can do a little bit more cinnamon in there. I think I need a little bit more of the cinnamon color. We're just adding some darkness on the bottom of the muzzle and on the top edge. Definitely need to add a little bit more cinnamon in there. I'm going to dry that because I'm just continually washing it away with my damp brush. I just put more cinnamon color in my mix. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And then we're going to do a highlight. I'm going to mix my banana cream and white. Let's do 2 white and 1 banana cream. And I want to dry brush with this little round brush a little bit of a highlight out here. I'll probably wash over this with some orange. This side's not as dry brushy because I have more water in my brush. Okay, I'm going to pick up more orange. Just blend it into my brush. Still need a little bit of that banana in there. Banana cream. So when we go along the top, we're adding more of the orange and more of the banana cream along the bottom. Okay. That looks pretty good. Actually, might take a little bit of that and streak it in here. Okay, this side looks lighter than this side. That looks better. Alright, let's do a little highlight in the middle of the nose, or muzzle here. And I'm going to put this back on, and it doesn't matter if it lines up or not. And I'm going to put a little bit of white in there. I'm just going to take a brush and do it. Not a scruffy brush, just a regular brush that's dry, and pick up some white and load it on my brush. And now we're going to offload it so we can tickle a little white right here. Let's bring it up a little bit higher. And I might do a little bit. Okay. Maybe not out quite so far over here. Break it up a little bit. Don't want it to look too connected. I do like how that one kind of comes down lower. So I think I might put one in that same row. In there. Now that to me can be a little bit brighter. So maybe another pass of white. Okay, you get too bright, it's an easy fix. You just wash over it with some of your orange. Okay, I think that's looking pretty cute. I'm trying to decide if I want any more highlights anywhere. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I have to put one over here since I Alright, that looks pretty good. Now, if you wash over that with some of your orange color, it's not going to take your highlight away. Just make sure it's dry. But it will tone it down if it's a little bit too bright. Make sure it's cool, and I've got some water barely tinted with some orange. And it will tone it down just a little bit, but it won't take it away. Okay, so that makes it not quite so bright. We can always come back and put the white back in if we decide it needs to be brighter when we get done with everything else, but so far I think that's looking pretty cute. Okay, I feel like the bottom of the muzzle could be a little bit more shadowed with some soft black. Okay, just a sheer amount, just on the very edge, just very lightly. Lots of water in with my paint, not a ton of paint. That's how we keep things sheer. Okay, I'm going to go inside here and get this a little bit darker with some soft black. Hopefully when I get that shaded, it will come together a little bit better. I do need to add my lines on my clover here because I need to see what is what. So this is a grouping here. Okay, so I can determine where my little petals are. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for the muzzle. We're gonna call it done. So we got the eyes and muzzle done. I do want to work on the 4-leaf clover next because I think the fur, once we get going with it, it's gonna be like a continuous thing. I really felt after I left this and came back to it that the highlight was washed out too much. So I put a little bit more white in the center and underneath. I kind of took my paintbrush and went like this to shape it under the nose. So now I'm just taking my eraser with some water and shaping that a little bit better so I can get it exactly how I want it to look underneath for the highlights. So I think that looks a little bit better to me. All right, let's work on the clover. I'm going to, our base color is leaf green, so I'm going to mix that with a little bit of soft black, just a touch to darken that green. Might have to be an equal mix here because that's not getting as dark as I'd like it to get. I want it to be a dark, muted kind of green, and we're going to shade this. I'm going to do each little petal kind of on its own. We do want to go kind of down the center. Okay, that gives you an idea of how we're going to do each one. We're going going to go at the base and up that center line and make a little V. And I kind of went over the center line there. You can use a quarter inch angle brush. I'm using a 3/8 inch. Leaf green and soft black. A bit more soft black, not quite dark enough for me. Okay, that one I did the best. We can see the line all the way down the center, which is kind of what we want to see, but you know, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Okay, and then we want to separate these. Definitely a smaller angle brush would be best. And up underneath, we're going into the mouth. I'm definitely going to get a smaller angle brush here so I can do the stems. A 1/4 inch one. I get a little bit mixed up on this brush. This is an equal mix of soft black and our base color, leaf green. So a little shadow where it goes into the mouth. This stem actually goes to this one, and then this stem is from the one that's in his mouth. These small areas can be a little bit tedious. I'm going to put a little dot in the center when we get done. Okay, so now we want to start highlighting, and I'm going to take some festive green and citron green, an equal mix, and mix them together. And we'll highlight. Okay, it's festive and citron. I'm going to get it down into the leaf a good ways. equal mix. Do this one. Okay, we'll put a little bit of this just on the stem, chisel edge it. Just a little bit in the center here. Okay. It was looking so cute. So cute, so cute. Okay, we're gonna highlight on these clover with a mix of citron and white. Two citron, one white. We're just going to be doing the outer edges here, the tips, I guess. We're going to make that vein in the center. Two citron, one white. Let's go do these little ones in the mouth. Go down the center of the Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dot the center of the clover, and that's just with some leaf green. That was our base color. And let's do a little highlight down the center. We're going to use the Festive and Citron mix. I think it will show up okay. Thin it down a little bit. We just need a little something in the center here. Because I had green on my finger from something. Oh, I stuck it in there. That's how I had it on my finger. I stuck it in my center dot. Those don't have to be because they're more on the shadow side. Okay, I want to wash over the clover with some festive green because we want it to be a bright green for St. Patrick's Day. So you're just going to create a wash. This is what my wash looks like. It's thinned water with some paint in it. A wash will keep our colors underneath from disappearing, but give a whole nother layer of color onto it. and brighten it up. Okay, I think that's going to keep it bright enough. I'll let it dry and decide if I want to add a little white highlight on those or not. I really want to keep this a little more simple, so we'll see. Okay, I decided to go ahead and add this little highlight on the tips of each little petal with some white. It's going to fade down in there a little bit, so. Better. Okay, a little white highlight on there, just perk it up just a little bit. Okay, so up here on the hair, let me look at my line drawing. You can transfer the line drawing on if you want to. I'm just going to take a watercolor pencil. This is just a really cheap brand. This is the color brown, and I want to create some hairs kind of coming off of the up here. Give me some cute little stuff going on up here. Kind of give me some idea of where I want my hair growth to go. I don't know, kind of something like that. That just gives me a guide. But like I said, you can put your line drawing on. My line drawing probably wasn't drawn the exact same way as what I just put it on there, so yeah, you can do how makes it easiest for you. Okay, I want to go down here and work on the chest area first. So I'm going to put some fresh light cinnamon out. That's the color that we painted our cow in with. And I'm going to make sure my brush has some water in it. And I'm going to load the toe of the brush and make it kind of, not sheer, but we don't want it super dark. Touch your paper towel, especially the tip, because that's where all of your extra paint is going to be. And then we're going to go down from the mouth line here, which is up here. And I'm just going to pull some strokes down like this. We're starting some kind of fur areas. But we want to keep them light. And then we're going to come in diagonally from the sides of the chest. And just chisel edge on the brush. Get a little bit more paint and we can make some a little bit darker through here. And put some little look of some fur in there. This is just the beginning, okay? I'm going to do the same up here. Just a little chisel edge. I want to shape follow here if I can. It's going to be a little bit trickier. Okay, up here in this area, we're going to come from the edges and create some Stay up on the chisel edge. A little bit of paint and water in your brush. We're just going to try and keep this as easy as we can. I'm going to get a little bit more, just a tiny bit more in my brush. And just a few darker ones. Okay, this area I'll have to add some banana cream back in. Even up here, those are pretty dark, although they look pretty good. They're a little dark. Okay. That's pretty good for starting out. I actually think I want a few to go across the, up here. Not all the way. We're going to come back with some banana cream and kind of smooth everything out. And go around different elements and stuff and create some shading. But that is a good start to our chest hair. And I think I'm going to go ahead and shade inside the ears. I'm going to do that with some soft black. Go ahead and get some dark. Okay, we're going to have to mix. Oh, that wasn't soft black. That's why it's not showing up. That was burnt umber. I want soft black. Soft black has a little bit of a purplish brown tint to it. So we're going to go inside the ear. I want to really bring it down into the ear a little bit. That's pretty good. Alright, we're going to use a 1/4 inch angle and some honey brown, and we're going to start adding some. I did my soft black a second time. It's still a little wet. We're just going to come along all of our areas here. Lift your brush so you're just putting it on the ear itself. I'll go over here and do this one. Straight paint. I don't have a ton of moisture in my brush. These could be a little bit fatter, I think, not quite so stringy. You don't have to completely cover up our base color. It's okay if some shows through. much water on my brush. I'm going to do it that direction, and I'm going to come from this direction, so it looks a little bit more blended in there. We've still got shading to do in here, so some of that dark color we're going to pull into our You could use a round brush to do this if you're not getting the look that you want with a chisel edge brush. Okay, this is first layer, so don't get caught up in it. We're going to wash over this cow, and actually down here I think I might want to do the cinnamon. I got a mix of cinnamon and honey brown on my brush here. Down there, I'm going to wipe the brush out and get just the honey brown. This little cow's still in his ugly stages, so don't get too caught up in how he's looking right now, okay? You can use a filbert brush to do this as well, which I am going to switch to for the face part. And I do want this cow to be a little bit more reddish, orangey brown, so I will adjust that. Find a filbert brush that I think might work. I don't know if this one will work or not. Okay, honey brown. That's our color we're working with right now. Don't completely cover up those dark areas that you painted in earlier. A round brush would probably work good in this area too, so I may go to a round brush for my next layer in there, but that's looking pretty good. Alright, there's our first layer with honey brown. Okay, I think that honey brown was a good start. So want it to be more orangey. So I think I'm going to take a mix of honey brown and red spice, 2 red spice, 1 honey brown. And I'm going to use a round brush this time. Because I want my cow to be a little bit more on the reddish orange side. Be a little bit thicker, I mean wider, not thicker, on the hairs and not quite so thin. I think that will look much better. We'll come back with a detail brush at the end and add some fine hairs. Figure out which would be the best way to make Okay, that is looking much better. I hope this red spice is a current paint color. You could probably use burnt orange, would probably be a good option as well. I'm using a 4 round, but I could probably go smaller than this. I'm trying to be up on the chisel edge. So, you know, you could continue with your filbert, because it's going to give you that chisel a little bit better. Get it off my clover here. I'm not trying to cover up all of my honey brown, so I still should be able to see some of that peeking out through the fur. Okay, I'm going to go back to my, actually I'm going to go to a small round here, go down to a size 2 for up here. And bring some of this into our I should have taken a little bit of that honey brown into the light area. I think that's probably good enough for bringing that color into the fur, because I want to keep it more of the light cinnamon on the light colored fur. Okay, I want to go ahead and shade underneath that stuff while all of this stuff dries. I'm going to take my light cinnamon, very sheer wash of it. Not loading a whole lot of this onto my brush, letting it blend with my water. I want this to be light. Okay, maybe just a tiny bit darker, a little less water. And we'll just kind of define these hairs up here. This is a sheer float of light cinnamon. A little bit of this up here where it's kind of in the center of all that growth. We're going to come in and add some little lines of fur up in there. That's got that kind of defined. Okay, we're looking pretty good here. We've got to get some color on the outside edge here, so I'm going to take some of the red spice and go along this edge here, just to tone that edge just a little bit. I don't think it's quite showing up. Let me get that mix. Just want to get things smoothed out here. Before we start doing all of our shading. I mean, final shading. And final little highlights. Okay. He's looking super duper cute. I think he's one of the easiest cows I've painted. Of course, I've only painted one other cow. So I think this guy has been pretty easy so far. Okay, so we're going to shade on the ears and a little bit on the red fur, and then we're going to come back in and add some lighter colors into the light colored fur. And a few hairs up here should kind of finish it off, I think. He's looking cute. Okay, a couple more steps, I think we'll have this guy done. All right, we need to do a little bit of brightening on the light color and then some final shading on the darker color. So I'm going to brighten. I think I'll just use... I might just use a round brush to do this. I'm going to use some white and banana cream mix. Get get some fresh paint out, because fresh paint is always going to work best for you. Mine's starting to look a little dried up. Okay. I'm going to try an equal mix and see how that looks. I want to add some, definitely need moisture here. I don't want so much moisture that it fades my paint completely out to nothing. I do want to put some kind of wild hairs up here. It's an equal mix of white and banana cream. Give him some little fringe on here. Okay, it's got a little fringe going on there. Then we're going to go down through the center and add some. I think I'll go this way so I can follow the path of what I've already put on here. Okay, let's bring some of this into our color we put on our edges. This is going to kind of bring it all together nicely. A touch more white. And I want to get a few just white ones up here. Wipe my brush out because I still had some yellow in there. Alright, that looks pretty good for that. Just a few in the center of just white. We did the equal mix of banana cream and white, and now I'm just doing just a few with just some white right through there. Okay, I'm going to take the banana cream and white mix and go through here. And this is going to blend this. Do a little bit through here. We got to do shading in there, and then we'll do a little bit of the banana cream and white mix down the chest. A little bit more banana cream in that. That was awful bright. Maybe you can bring some into the fur over here on the side. This kind of brings it all to look like it should be together. gonna have to bring some of this light cinnamon up in here because let me thin some down. We've got a line right here, and I don't want to have that line, so maybe I'll do light cinnamon and the spice color together. Kind of break up this line a little bit. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Alright, I think that makes him look so much cuter. I think all we have left to do is the shading on the dark fur. Okay, let's finish up on our shading. So on the ears, we're going to want to repeat that soft black just a little bit. And when we do this, we're going to pull a little bit of this into here. Just chisel edge. You know, kind of break that up. We're going to do this first. Okay, break those hairs up. That's how we're going to do that. Okay, I'm going to thin this down and shade next to the head. I want this to be soft. That's a little bit of a hard line. Let me remove a little paint off of the tip there. I'd rather come back and repeat it and not have to try and remove it or paint over it. So light layers are what I suggest. See a little paint outside the headline here, and I don't know how long it's been there. I've cured it with the heat tool. I like to try and get that off. Okay. Alright, where else do we want this soft black? We want it inside the ear. So we'll bring it out just a little bit. Just loosely soften that area. So it's kind of scumbly. I can bring some of this down into down here. And break some of this up down here. Don't like the way that ends right there, so I might come back with my cinnamon. And clean that one up over here. It doesn't not my cinnamon, my spice and honey brown mix. Which I want it to be thicker than what I have here. Okay, so this side needs to be a little bit wider. So back to my soft black. widen this one a little bit. Can darken this one. I'm going to put some soft black down here next to the muzzle area. And a little bit down here. This is very sheer. Don't want too much. I don't really want to outline the cow. I just want a little bit of stuff going on. Let's put a little bit up here. It's very sheer. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I want a little bit. Okay, I think that looks super cute. Okay, so underneath here, we're gonna just take our brush and get some light cinnamon and soft black mixed together. Work it into my brush so it's not incredibly dark, and we're gonna go underneath this area and do some shading. Bring it down a little bit. We want to put a little bit above and below our stem. Okay, down here around our clover, just try to be as thin with that as you can. If you get it too much on the lip part, just remove some of it. The lip is mostly dark because it's underneath, but we don't want it super dark. Okay, I'm going to dry that because I want to repeat. That same color mix. Just want to darken. He needs a little of the brown coming around this edge here. So get the light cinnamon mostly. Go around that edge. Get a little bit of soft black. Need to push that stem a little farther back under there. Okay, I think he looks super duper cute. that's shaped right there. I'm not sure how it got shaped so crazy. Not sure I can fix it. Okay. Don't do that. I got all my paint so close on my palette now because my palette's full, so I picked up some paint I didn't want with the heel of my brush. Alright, well that's shaped a little bit better. I can live with that. I can live with it. Okay, I think he's going to be a done little guy here. I think he turned out cute as can be. I love, love, love him. Super fun. I think he's a pretty fast project. We didn't have to do a whole lot of detail stuff. Down here in this fur, we could take some of that soft black that we used, or the mix of soft black and cinnamon that we kind of pulled into the ear down there. And we could pull a little bit of this. My brush is way too wet. My cinnamon's about dried up. Could make a few little darker areas in the. It's light cinnamon, a little bit of. Just a tiny bit of soft black. I don't have hardly any paint on my brush here. I really feel like I need some shading out here. Soft black and light cinnamon. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. So I'm going to leave it out of the instruction because I don't think it really made a difference. Smooth it out there. Okay, you want to clean up in your background as soon as you can because ours is a blended background, so we don't want to have to do too much, but I think he turned out super cute. If you're still feeling like your clover needs to be brighter for St. Patrick's Day, just go ahead and put another wash of the festive green on there. Because it is all about the clover. What a cutie. I think he turned out adorable. I absolutely love him. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. He's been a lot of fun for me. And I'm kind of on an animal kick here lately. I don't know what's going on, but he turned out cute. I hope you enjoy painting him. Please give me a thumbs up. Please comment. Please share. And if it's the first 7 days, smash that hype button. Help me get out to more people. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.